Hey YouTube, Shobi here with a review of the Power Rangers Super Megaforce Action Heroes, otherwise known as the 5-inch scale figure line. I say 5-inch loosely because they're shorter than the old 5-inch figures, but they're a lot taller than these 4-inch figures. Just real quick for scaling purposes, here is what we called the 4-inch figure line next to the 5-inch figure line. Previous 5-inch figures were more or less 5.5-inch figures, so these ones are pretty much dead on 5 inches. So, the packaging is pretty small. The old packaging went to about, I would say, here or so it's not a whole lot bigger than the old packaging, but it's quite a bit deeper to compensate for the larger figure. Each one has the Color Ranger Action Hero with a picture of the Ranger. All of them have the Super Megaforce red up top. And on the back here we show the 5-inch scale figures with Vekar, our main enemy, and the X-Borg, Wall Skills, and the whatever these guys were called, I forgot off the top of my head. But there we go, X-Borgs and Vekar, so yay names. Each sold separately, obviously. These two, the villains, are not out yet. They are going to be like Vrak and Loogie in a separate like Wave 2 sort of thing, and hopefully they'll be a lot easier to find than Vrak and Loogie, where that was a pain in the butt. But anyway, on to the figures themselves. They all share the same base mold, so I'll go over red and I'll go over pink because that will make Joey happy. So we'll take a look at red first. And now these figures are not bad. I wouldn't necessarily say they're great. The Jungle Fury line was really one of the best figure lines Bandai America put out. The RPM ones were good, but the molding of the Jungle Fury guys were top on great. These unfortunately are kind of a oversized 4-inch figure. They have all the same points of articulation that you'd find on this guy, just in a bigger scale. So you've got full rotation on the head. Obviously he can't do it because of how big his collar is, but he could do it if the collar wasn't there. Pin and socket, or pin and swivel rather, joint system right up here, which is just as good as these ones, except it's actually colored the appropriate color. So hooray, we finally got to 2014. Swivel right there at the cuff of the glove, more or less a wrist swivel. And then the same typical leg joint that we have on these guys, except it's covered up by the skirt. The skirt is made of a rubbery plastic. It's pliable, but not super pliable. I mean, you can get him going like this, and you can get him going just about that. Without force, he can kick just about that way. So it's not a huge hindrance. I mean, obviously, you're not going to pose your characters going like this anyway, so I don't see why it's a huge deal. But the prototype pictures showed the skirt being attached to the leg, kind of how, I think it was an RPM, no, it wasn't RPM. Maybe it was RPM. I don't remember which figure line it was. Had him attached. I know Mystic Force did. But single joint right there and a swivel right there. So there's the guy's main articulation. And the male mold's not too bad. Proportions seem off somehow. I don't know where exactly. I think it's the shoulders, because this goes into such a broad circular shoulder that it looks very toy. It doesn't quite look as fluid. Like, this wasn't actually that bad of a sculpt in terms of proportions, but the main frame is so slender and the shoulders are so broad that it ends up looking very strange. I don't really have a problem with the helmet sculpt or anything like that. I think they did a good job there. And detail-wise, they're actually really great, and they're painted in the back too. So I really have no huge complaints with the figures. I wish the proportions were a little bit better. We'll take a look at pink next to go over the girl mold. And so it's basically the girl mold we've all come to expect. Again, just an inflated version of the 4-inch scale. Very, very slender figure, very pronounced boobs, and the skirt piece, which hinders articulation a lot more than the guys does, because their skirt pieces are full. But again, you're not going to be giving them the splits, but their articulation is limited to the point where it could actually hinder some things. And Bandai has this thing about packaging the figures. I always get figures, particularly with the female figures, whose boots are always like weird and oblong. And it's really annoying when you're trying to stand these up straight. But that being said, same points of articulation, so I'm not going to go over that. But again, details are pretty good. No major complaints in the realm of details. So a nice representation of the Pink Ranger. Each character comes with the Super Mega Saber and the Super Mega Blaster weapons, and you can flop them around, so you can give blue 2 of the sabers, give green 2 of the guns, because that is basically how they fight in the show most times. Now, as you can see, looking straight on my blue, his skirt splayed out quite a bit over here. Not a huge deal, but just thought I'd point out some things that the packaging process can do to these figures. But again, pretty nice blue. Blue kind of seems to flow a little bit better than red does, I guess just because it's dark. Here's yellow, Gia. And again, no huge complaints on these guys whatsoever. I actually kind of dig them. And here's Jake doing his best Don impression. This just seems like something Jake would do anyway, so. Really cool. I love green. Donald's my favorite of the Gokaigers, and Jake is my favorite of the Megaforce Rangers. So I kind of just dig this guy in general. So pretty cool. I just really like the way that these guys end up looking. They're $7.99 each at Target, which is the cheapest place that you can find these. They are been popping up at Toys R Us locations for $9.99. But if you can pick them up at Target, it's a little bit better to pick them up there, given the fact that they are cheaper. And cheaper is always nice. Are these worth it? It's really up to you. If you're a fan of Gokaiger and want affordable representations, then these aren't really bad figures. If you're a fan of Power Rangers Super Megaforce, then obviously these are definitely the way to go. Now, there are figure arts of these guys. The full Gokaiger team was released as figure arts, plus Silver whenever he pops up with this line. Bluefin has shown interest in bringing them over as the Super Megaforce Rangers. So if you're into figure arts, then by all means, I would hold out, buy the figure arts. I have reviewed all of the Gokaiger figure arts, so just search my channel for those. And I do really recommend picking up the figure arts. If you're on a budget, however, these are only $7.99, and $7.99 for a 5-inch scale figure is pretty good. Granted, the weapons aren't painted, and the proportions leave a little bit to be desired, but all in all, they're actually pretty worthwhile figures. I didn't mind the 4-inch scale whatsoever, but a lot of people really complained about it. My only complaint was the shift from the 5.5-inch to the 4-inch. It was quite a bit of a difference. And now that we're back to a larger scale, we have this line of like 5-inch scale figures that drops to 4-inch for MMPR 2010 and continues all the way through Megaforce. Then all of a sudden for Super Megaforce, bam, they're big again. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But looking at the core of the figure, they are pretty good. I have no major complaints outside of the proportions. And for $7.99, you really can't beat it too much. So worth the pickup if you're a fan of these suits. No major complaints. Thanks for watching. Take care and have a great one. Bye.